Good morning. This is the Eager Beaver Show.
You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Miss V Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters. PsychicTarot.ca, book your tarot reading and unlock your spiritual journey. And the Pepper Master, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. Well, good morning and hello, kids and cubs, and welcome to season 5 and episode number 702 of the Daily Beaver Morning Show. Always 100% Canadian. Today, recording day is Tuesday, July 29th, 2025, and it is a lovely day here at the Beaver Lodge. I'm your host, the Eager Beaver, pronouns he, him, he, Mr. Beaver A. And not with me, as usual, is my good friend, Mr. Grizzly, but I have it on good authority that he will be with us live on Monday because it is a holiday Monday here in Ontario, as well as in many parts of the country. So we'll have some live Grizzly with us on Monday. Yay! I miss him so much. A big thank you goes to our podcast founding sponsors, the Pepper Master, the Miss V Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, and PsychicTarot.ca. Cats and cubs, how is your mental health doing today? As you can tell by the smile on my face, mine is doing quite well. It's been a big day here at the Beaver Lodge, mostly for my beaver sweetie rather than for me, because yesterday he administered his first final exam as a professor of a course at Queen's University. So, yay, him. And I had to vigilate that yesterday, and it seems that everything went rather well. So I will be taking him out for dinner either tonight or tomorrow night. But right now, he is still asleep because he wanted to make sure that the exam was perfect. So he stayed up most of the night before. So he's trying to catch up on some sleep. I think he vigilated that exam with like 3 hours sleep or something, and then had to continue his day. Yeah, he's been catching up on some Z's as well, because my beaver sweetie is getting ready to take a trip to Romania, which I was supposed to go on, but my foot is not well enough for that, so I'll be staying back. So he's got some stuff to prepare. Of course, he has to correct the final exam too before he goes and give some instructions to his assistant in the lab and all that kind of stuff. So it's busy around here, before going away for a trip. There's always lots to do. So I'm helping out as best as I can with that. And yes, I'm going to miss him, and that part does make me sad. But I am so proud of him. He's always wanted to teach at Queen's, and he had his first full course from beginning to end. He learned a lot during the process as well. And yesterday had a very interesting conversation. Uh, Something I didn't know was in his instincts, but he let the people who hired him know that the course he taught could use some revision because he had to revise a lot of things in order to be able to teach it, and that would probably be a really good idea, especially if it's a course that they want some students to teach because you normally that's what would happen. My Beaver Sweetie got the course because there was a strike at the moment that the courses were being assigned that could have happened, and they wanted to be sure that the course was taught. But usually they give it to a doctoral student to be able to get some experience teaching a course. But for that, a teaching fellow, I think it is. But usually for that, they want to give them a course that's fully designed. And he said that there's a couple of touch ups that the course could need, and maybe they would like to retain him to do that, given that he's just taught it and can tell them where those things are. So hopefully something will come out of that. But I'm sitting there and I go, yeah, sweetie, way to make yourself indispensable. Of course, he will still be doing some work in the lab, and he's got some assignments for September. Not at Queen's, however. The assignments for September are going to be at RMC, which is kind of interesting. But hey, that's the fun thing about being in a city where you have three post-secondary institutions. You can go back and forth between them as there is need. Not sure how much need there will be at St. Lawrence College for the next while, given what has happened to community colleges and the fact that Doug Ford has been severely underfunding them. I think not too long ago, we reported that there were 10,000 jobs losses in colleges throughout Ontario and lots of cancellations of programs and stuff like that. And Doug Ford did try to blame the federal government for that, but it's Doug Ford's fault and probably some successive governments. But Doug Ford has been infamous for underfunding post-secondary education, pretty much starving it. So, and then of course relying on foreign students, which were aplenty at one point. But then Doug Ford started complaining about there being too many students and not being able to have enough homes and not enough healthcare. So he asked for a cap after asking for having a lot of them there because there was a staffing shortage post COVID, for which he blamed the federal government as well. So then he got his cap, and now he's complaining that, well, there's not enough students in the colleges to be able to afford paying for the colleges. Of course, Doug Ford also put in a tuition freeze and did not compensate post secondary education institutions for the amounts of money that they could not get anymore by raising fees. So he's been starving our post secondary institutions that way as well. So, with regard to colleges, that'll be a little trickier here in Ontario. But with universities, at least there's still some opportunities there. And he is set up for the next semester and has got his space in the lab to continue some of his research. I know that it seems that he's going to, if he's still going, I'm trying to, I don't want to discourage him, but there's a conference in the United States in November, which he is supposed to present work not only for himself, but for three or four other people. Some of the other people that weren't born in Canada yet and haven't gotten their citizenship yet. So he's afraid, they're afraid to go because they don't want anything happening to them. So he's the only one in the group that actually has Canadian citizenship. So he's, right now, they're all relying on him to go and to present for four different things, I believe. And I'm I'm not so sure I want him to go. I mean, I don't want him to go because, we're doing the boycott of the USA thing, but I'm also don't want him to go because, 55 Canadians have ended up in ICE care and one of them has died. So, it doesn't thrill me at all. But then again, science is science and science must be done. So, yeah, I'm nervous at the prospect. That's in November. So, I'm, yeah, uh, uh, chewing my nails. Chewing my nails. I will be completely honest. I'm nervous about it. Maybe your sweetie doesn't seem to be so worried, given that it is for a conference, and there's very very specific purpose and reason and all that kind of stuff. But um, I'm I I tend to worry more about such things than he does. He also wasn't afraid. He had to go back to Romania during COVID at one point because his last maternal grandparent had passed away and he had to go to settle the estate. And while that was a time at which I would have not gotten on a plane for any reason whatsoever, you couldn't have paid me enough. He had no problem with it. And of course, everything was fine. But he's braver than I am when it comes to that kind of stuff. I'm a little, I'm, I err way more on the side of safety. If the line is here, I'm all the way over here. So yeah, but lots of developments here and lots of excitement here at the Beaver Lodge, and also a little bit of excitement for yours truly, because as you can see, I am wearing one of my shiny shirts, my tennis shirts, and yes, today I have decided, inspired by the great Jeannie Bouchard, who last night at the National Bank Open, uh, during the match, which was supposed to be her final match of her career as a tennis player, actually pulled out a three-set win. So, yeah, she is going to keep going. And in fact, it's really cute. She posted to her Twitter feed a little something here that I will show you, which is like, still alive, not done yet. Ginny Bouchard leaves it on the court and defeats Arango 6-4, 2-6, 6-2. So, still, as she's considering retiring, Jeannie Bouchard still get on a tennis court at a Masters 1000 event, which is Grand Slam -1, and defeat a top 100 player in the world. Why quit now? Keep going. But Judy Bouchard has taken to pickleball, actually. So she plays on that tour now. And it looks like she's completely moving over. But it was it would have been nice to see the match. Unfortunately, Sportsnet carries tennis now, since not TSN, since it's been called the National Bank Open. A little bit before that, Tennis Canada signed a broadcasting deal with them, and unfortunately, they provide god awful coverage. God awful coverage. TSN's coverage was much better. Sportsnet has 5 or 6 channels. Has 5 channels, and then the Sportsnet's 360 channel, which not everybody necessarily gets. But with your basic subscription, I think you get your Sportsnet channels. And last night, one of them was dedicated to showing the men. The other 4 were dedicated to showing the Jays game. They couldn't have sacrificed one, and they didn't cover the women at all. At all. And on the first day as well, during the day, they had something else covering, and they didn't cover the women. So women's tennis gets sacrificed for some reason regularly with Sportsnet in favor of men's tennis or in favor of other things like Blue Jays games or something. You would have been able to watch it online. However, uh, you can sign in online and watch it on their streaming service online. However, Sportsnet has not been able to get uh, its technology in gear. So there are certain service providers, like if you're with Bell or Shaw, one of the big ones, you're okay. But if you're one of the smaller ones, like Virgin or whatnot, you can't log in saying I've already paid for a subscription as part of my cable package and actually get to see the matches. They've never fixed it. People have been complaining about that for 3, 4 years, and they keep on saying it's fixed, but it never is fixed, and you can't. So yes, in Canada, Jeannie Bouchard, the first person in Canada to ever reach a Grand Slam singles final. Um, I believe probably highest ranked female player. Maybe Carling Bassik-Seguso achieved the same feat in her career of all time. Was playing what was supposed to be her final match, and nobody in Canada could watch it on TV. Yeah, not exactly. If I was Tennis Canada, I would be revising my deal with Sportsnet because that's just terrible, terrible, terrible coverage. But yours truly is going to try. Is going to try. return to the court today after the show. I'm probably going to be sauntering gingerly from side to side because the main consideration for me, main concern is not so much that I can do more damage to my foot itself, to where I broke my foot, but it's the pushing off the left foot when you got to stop hard and move in the other direction, the pivots, and there's lots of pivoting in tennis. Uh, the concern would be that the muscles on the outside of the leg haven't fully been rebuilt yet and have atrophied and might not be able to support the ankle, and that I could roll my ankle. So I will not be running hard for digging balls, but I will, like I said, casually jog from side to side, probably letting a lot of balls go by. So, yep, not ready for that one yet. But I figured out a strategy because normally I run side to side and dig things. But this year, the plan was to learn to move forward and come to the net to close off some points. So I will be focusing on that. I'll be using the matches more as practice sessions, looking for opportunities to come forward and try to finish some points. Because for me right now, it's easier for me to move forward and back than it is side to side. So I'm looking at it as an opportunity to practice some skills and not exactly to play full matches yet. But I am very excited. I am coming out of retirement. Woo! Says Jeannie Bouchard and Vashik Pospisil are starting their tennis retirements. Well, not Jeannie Bouchard yet because she has at least one more match. I am coming out of mine, and I am very happy. I've been I was very sad to not be able to be on the courts most of the summer, so this is going to bring me a little moment of joy, even if I'm not able to play at my maximum. Just to be out there and swinging the racket is going to make me feel good. So I'm very happy about that. Kids and Cubs, let's see what we have here. Who's here with us today? I see Kit PNC Bio, the first one in today, saying good morning. Kit Elaine is also saying good morning. Tavi G also saying good morning. Rain, rain, and more rain here. I'm not exactly sure where here is, but we could use some rain over here. We got a little bit the other day, but yeah, it's been pretty dry here. The grass is pretty much yellow where we are here at the Beaver Lodge at the moment. Kit Saucy says good morning. So does Kit Frankie. Who else do we have with us here? Kit Linda M says good morning to everyone. So good morning to you as well, dear one. Kit Hyper TW07 with Buen Dia Gente right here with us. Buen dia to you as well and to your lovely family. Kit Nona Carol is here, so wishing good morning to everyone as well. Kit Moan is here, offering some coffee and some waves and some love. Good morning to you, Mohan, and good morning to everyone. Please give a big hug to Miss Mateo, Rain, and Jazzy for me when you have an opportunity. Kat W is with us here, wishing everyone good morning as well. Lovely to see you. Playing with 3D is here, wishing good morning, everyone. Kit Uncover is already updating us with the news. That's a very, very, very important and an essential service that Kit Uncover provides for us here, and we really appreciate that. Who else do we have here with us? Is that everyone this morning? I'm seeing lots of names repeating. Wow, you guys are really into it already this morning. Lots of celebration in the chat of the achievement of Summer Macintosh here. That's really cool. We have Kit Tom here, wishing everyone good morning, friends. That's good. There's Miss, who's joining us. Kid Bucky is here saying good morning. Had to do my daily walk before the heat comes. So I'm late, but you're not late. You arrived precisely when you intended to. And as we keep on saying on the show, we don't care when you arrive, so long as you arrive. Let's see. And then Kit Sharon popping in at the last second with a good morning, DAMFAM. So lovely to see you. Hi. And a good morning. Hi. Hello to me too. Hello. Hello, Kit Sharon. Uh, Oh, so lovely to see you. I'm glad you're all here. Thank you so much for making my morning great. Oh, and by the way, we're celebrating a little something at the Beaver Lodge because yesterday we hit 20,000 subscribers on our YouTube channel. Yay! I hear the applause. I hear the wild applause coming from the audience. That was it's a big milestone for us. So thank you, at all the members of the Best DAMFAM and all the podcasting for making our numbers so huge. As someone would say. Uh, Never thought, had hoped when we started that we would hit numbers like this, but never actually dreamed it would be possible. And well, here we are. So, like I said, let's take this baby out for a test drive and see how far it can go. Who knows? If you can do 20,000, you can do 40, right? Maybe, perhaps. Who knows? We'll keep working at it. But thank you. This is already success beyond my wildest dreams. So everything from this point on, as far as everything past 1,000 really was gravy because I never thought anybody would be interested in a show like this to start with. But we did it anyway, and you came. So thank you for being Thank you for being our friends. All right, kids and cubs. Uh, Definitely news for you today. And the big news, actually, of them today, there's lots of other news, of course, and probably bigger news, but where we're concerned, the big news for us today is from Battle River-Crowfoot specifically, because it's a big, big day in the area. Now, first, before we get into anything really deep, there's one bit of shining happy news that I am more than happy to present. Guest that we had on the show, Tony Weir, as we know, uh, wrote a song titled Bonnie because she was inspired by Bonnie Critchley standing up to be counted and putting her name to become the voice. She keeps on saying in interviews, it's my neighbor's words, but I will be their voice if she does win. And we're hoping that she does in Battle River-Crowfoot, and then wrote the song Bonnie. Well, it turns out that Bonnie's campaign team heard it, asked Tony whether or not it could be their campaign song. She agreed, and it has become the campaign song. So it's taken on a whole other life now. And it seems that recently, Tony and Bonnie had an opportunity to meet. So how do you like that, kids and cubs? Uh, Tony saying here, meeting Bonnie was amazing. We got to meet some of her family today and played Bonnie for them. She's the real deal, folks. So nice to see two guests of ours get together. And we are talking with her team and trying to find a date for her to come back on the show to give us an update of what's been going on so far on the campaign as she gets ready for the big day. Because it's on the 18th. So let's see, 29, 30 there. So 21 days, 3 weeks until actual voting day. Of course, if you are in Battle River, Crowfoot, you can vote now. And Bonnie Critchley was actually encouraging everyone to vote now because, as you know, she has made a plea to the Longest Ballot Committee to stay out of this particular race because everybody that runs under the Longest Ballot Committee is also listed as an independent candidate, right? But I mean, they are and they're not. They're not independent in the same way that Bonnie Critchley is, because she actually has a full campaign, right, with a platform and everything, and intends. Uh, she wants the seat, whereas everybody else in running under that independent banner, according to the long list ballot committee, is there merely as a protest. Right? They're not going door to door. They're not necessarily knocking. They're not launching websites. They're just protesting. Right? And I saw somebody yesterday post on the web. Well, if it's a 2 million, if my tax dollars are paying $2 million for a useless by-election or something like that. Well, you can bet I'm running in it. And it's like, oh, okay, yes, yes, I forgot because the by-election is about your needs as a candidate, not the needs of the residents of Battle River-Crowfoot. Okay, I understand. Yes, you're paying for part of the by-election, so you must run in it. And, you know, do whatever this does. Make lives of the poll workers hell, make lives of Elections Canada hell. And the thing that I can understand their point, right, what they want to do, I just don't believe that it's a tactic that helps them achieve their goal. It gets them a lot of press. They have an opportunity to talk about electoral reform. But when you make the lives of the voters complicated and you make the lives of the staff that are there complicated and you make it hard for people uh, to cast their vote, I'm not sure you bring people to your side. I think you turn people away. So there seems to be again one of these. It seems to be one of these protest movements saying, "Well, you know, we made the ballot long, and we're getting a lot of press, so we've been effective." It's like, no, your goal is not. I mean, I'm sure you probably want some media attention, but your goal is to actually have a change in the way that we vote. And so far, the only changes in the way that we vote um, that are coming about are being brought about to curtail you and not to bring us a different method of voting. So I'm not particularly sure that this tactic is successful and is helping the committee in any way, shape, or form. But it has gotten the attention of a lot of people and it has getting a lot of press. And as of yesterday, which was the closing date for registrations, um, 209 kids have registered. So as you can see, they're all listed as independents, and they have a I can't pronounce his name. Thomas Shuzowicz probably is the official agent for all of them. And the only way you know if you actually have an actual independent is if their official agent is someone else, as we see here for Bonnie Critchley. And other people such as Sarah Spanier, who we're also trying to set a date with so that we can talk. Sarah Spanier was one of the earliest declared independent candidates as well, declared a little bit after Bonnie Critchley. But finally got her paperwork in because we kept on looking at the list to see if she was on, to see if this was a serious bid before extending the invitation. But yes, uh, so they're all listed as independents, which makes it tough for actual independent candidates who actually want to be an independent voice because they sort of get blended into all of them. And that's why she was asking them to step aside or to not do it this time. But they have done it this time anyway, sadly. So in response to that, Bonnie Critchley had actually done something that was really clever. She was encouraging people to go and vote early because when you vote early, uh, voting by special ballot, right, you get a blank ballot where you have to write the name in of the person for whom you want to vote. So she was telling people that, you know, given that special ballots, you can vote by special ballot by going to the returning office at any time, right? Even before advance polling officially starts. So she was recommending for people to just go in there and write the name down, Bonnie Critchley, and that would work. And that way you wouldn't have to deal with a ballot that has 209 names. Now, all of this was before Elections Canada made an announcement yesterday. Um, Now, I don't know what came first. Well, what all of the Elections Canada motives were, but in the meantime, while all of this was going on, you had Pierre Poilievre suddenly decide that the longest ballot committee was a problem, which was kind of interesting because this is about, I think, the ninth time now that the longest ballot committee has done this. And they've done it for a while. I think they've done it five times in a riding that was held by a liberal, I believe, once in a riding that was held by an NDP candidate, and now twice for um, a candidate from the Conservative Party. Now, both times that it was twice for a candidate from the Conservative Party, it happened to be Pierre Poilievre who was affected because it happened in Carleton in the last federal election, and now it's happening in Battle River-Crowfoot. Well, it seems that Pierre Poilievre is a little upset about this. Well, at least, let me rephrase that. Pierre Poilievre wants you to believe that he's upset about this because he sure seemed to be fine with it when it was happening to someone else. But Pierre got a little upset, decided to write a letter, of course, which always makes us wonder, well, where were you with this letter when it was happening in Toronto, St. Paul, or La Salle-Mar, Verdun? But on July 22nd, he wrote, "Dear Minister McKinnon," who's the leader of the government in the House of Commons, "we are writing to demand action against a blatant abuse of our democratic system. The so-called Longest Ballot Committee has once again declared its intent to flood the ballot, this time with over 200 names in the Battle River-Crowfoot by-election. They've already registered more than 100. In the last federal election, they were behind 85 of the 91 candidates in Carleton. This is not democracy in action." Well, actually, it is. It's It's just a tactic that most of us don't find palatable, but it is. "It's a deliberate attempt to manipulate the rules, confuse voters, and undermine confidence in our elections." I don't think that it's a way of working within the system in order to make a point. I'm not sure they're trying to confuse voters, and I'm not sure that they're trying to well, the its very existence. When you have a group that is trying to pretend that we do not have democratic elections at the moment because we do not have the voting system that they themselves would prefer, yes, that is an attempt to undermine confidence in our elections, but not in the same way that Pierre is intending here with his letter when he's talking about undermining confidence in the elections. It's the voters were so confused and the rules have been manipulated. So how can we have confidence in the result that this is what the voters actually intended to do? How can we be sure that this was a clear decision and that the voters had an opportunity to fully cast their vote without impediment? Is more the thing that he is going for here when he's saying disrupting, uh, undermining confidence in our elections. Quote, "These aren't real candidates. They aren't campaigning. They aren't engaging with constituents. This is a coordinated scheme to weaponize the ballot and disrupt our democratic process." That sentence is, these sentences or that paragraph is actually more true, but that this is not a democracy in action sentence, definitely not true here. So Pierre then goes on. "The blatant abuse undermines the integrity of our elections. We are therefore calling on the government to take immediate steps upon the return of Parliament in September to end the longest ballot scam and prevent this kind of electoral manipulation in the future. Specifically, we are calling on government to 1. Raise the bar for candidate nominations by requiring 0.5% of the population in any given riding to sign, not just 100 people." Sounds like it's a good thing at the beginning on its face. However, there was an interview, I think yesterday, with somebody from the Longest Ballot Committee on Power and Politics, and they made the point that while in an urban area, this wouldn't be a problem. In a riding like Battle River-Crowfoot, which is 52,000 square kilometers, that would require about 6%, 600 vote signatures or something, 0.5% of the population, and that might be harder to get in a rural area that is very, very wide, especially for the Longest Ballot Committee, since, the person that wrote on Twitter that if I'm paying for this, I'm running in it, was doing so from British Columbia, which would have made it very difficult for him to get those signatures on the ground. So uh, this um, provision here could make it a little more difficult for actual genuine independents to be able to get those signatures. So it is a bit of a barrier. I don't know if it's too high a barrier or not, but it does create a higher barrier for people being able to throw their hat in the ring. And that is inherently viewed as undemocratic or less democratic by a lot of groups. Two, require that each signature in support of a candidate be exclusive with no signatory permitted to endorse more than one candidate in the same election. Again, slightly undemocratic because as a voter, just because I'm only going to vote for one candidate, if I do vote, or none, um, doesn't mean I can't support more than one being in the race, right? If there are three quality candidates that come to my door and ask for a signature, because I don't, the threshold is not would I vote for them, but would I consider voting, or do they have the stuff to be a good candidate, whether I would vote for them or not? So three people could come to my door asking for a signature to put their name on the list as a candidate after talking to them, saying, you know what? Yep, you seem like a serious candidate, whether I would vote for them or not. And I could put my signature to that. So that takes away a bit our right as constituents to give ourselves as much choice as possible. So again, probably would make it easier for Pierre this time around, but not sure it's in the best interest of everyone. And then three, restrict official agents to representing only a single election candidate at any given time. That is one that we have proposed on this show because this Thomas Schuich, whoever his last name is, person has been the person that's been the official agent for all of these candidates so far since we've been following this in Toronto, St. Paul. So yes, if each one of these candidates had to get their own official agent, it would be a little more complicated. However, I think that there are more than 400 people in the country who support a move to another type of voting system. So even the 200 or so candidates, longest ballot candidates here, if they couldn't all have this Thomas person, all they would have to find is another person in Canada who believes in this type of electoral reform, and they would put their name. So it would make it a little more complicated, but I'm not sure it would be that high a barrier or high a very high hurdle to climb, given the sheer number of people who are interested in this. But yes, Pierre wrote Stephen McKinnon asking for him to, I guess, push these things through. These reforms will make the longest ballot scam impossible to carry out again and turn the ballot back to voters free from manipulation. Conservatives stand ready to work with you to solve this problem. I doubt these three solutions would make the longest ballot scam impossible to carry out. It would make it slightly more difficult, but far from impossible. So yeah, and then sincerely, Pierre Poilievre, leader of the Conservative Party, co-signed by Michael Cooper. Uh, Again, they call themselves shadow minister. We don't have that in Canada. Conservative critic for democratic reform. Um, Interesting that it's a Howdy Doody Part 2 that is the person tasked with democratic reform, given that Pierre did such a great job of it when he was the minister. I'm sorry. The other thing that's funny to me about this is that Pierre Poilievre, particularly, should be the last person in Canada who's complaining about the administration of elections. Because if you remember correctly, the Conservative Party of Canada pleaded guilty in court to election finance cheating in order to save four people, including two senators from going to jail. Irving Gerstein and Doug Finley, those two senators, to prevent them from going to jail. Then, because they did funny things with the accounting, they had money reimbursed to it that they were not entitled, and then they tried to keep that money for the better part of the year after they were after they had pleaded guilty to cheating, and they were forced to return that money. Uh, and then Pierre Poilievre himself has a lifetime compliance agreement with Elections Canada because he was doing things during elections that he was not supposed to do, and he had to promise to be a good boy for the rest of his life if he was running in federal elections, so as to not have a court case that he probably would have lost because you don't sign a deferred prosecution agreement if you think you're going to win. Um, so, yeah, this guy was there and benefited from his party cheating, and then he himself is a bit of a cheater. So he's the last person. And then, of course, he passed the only bill he passed in 2 decades as an MP. He's tabled about 5 or 6 before becoming party leader. But the only one that actually passed was his alleged Fair Elections Act, which disenfranchised primarily the Indigenous, poor people, and students, people who tend not to vote conservative. Imagine that, at least at the time, and tried to disenfranchise them. And of course, that bill led to his party sinking itself in the next election. And then most of it was gutted by the courts, and whatever wasn't gutted was pretty much overturned by Parliament. So this guy is the last person in the entire nation anybody should be taking advice from when it comes how to run an election. And of course, we have the overall bathwater of a political party that cannot seem to run a clean leadership race, no matter if their life depends on it. So, thank you for your it's almost like, "Oh, gee, you finally care about this issue now that it affects you. Thank you for your suggestion. We are going to give it all the consideration that it deserves and flush, file it in file folder number 13." Bye. Oh, look at it, it's going round and round. Um, yeah. I have a hard time taking this man seriously when he starts talking about running elections more fairly, because it hasn't been a priority of his at all, like ever in his career, ever, ever. However, Um, put all those things together, Elections Canada did decide to make a move, and they announced that yesterday. And I think that it is actually a rather smart move on the part of Elections Canada. And it's one that I have a feeling will make Bonnie Critchley very happy because it is very much in line with that she was recommending. She was telling people to go to your return office right away if you can, and to just fill in your special ballot. And as I mentioned before, when you have a special ballot, it's just a piece of paper and they ask you to write in the name of your candidate. And one of the things that Bonnie Critchley has been saying is, when you go vote, make sure that you know my name because my name is going to be mixed in with all the other independents. So make sure that you know my name and you know how to spell it so that you can write it. You can find it on the ballot and check it so I don't get lost in all the other independents. And I don't know if there's a way for Election Canada to maybe mark ballots uh, in a certain way that like genuine independents um, are labeled as something else and protest independents are labeled as something other. Um, but yeah, I don't know. There's other people that have been talking about things such as a residency requirement, but that hasn't been the case. I don't know if it's. I don't remember in my lifetime, and there may have been when if ever, being a resident of the riding was required. I don't necessarily think so because I'm remembering that Canadian history moment where, uh, oh, the guy from Toronto is trying to get the guy from Quebec to run in a riding in Toronto. I think Louis Hippolyte Lafontaine. I remember, imagine what it will be when people see a francophone run in Toronto and win. So I'm guessing, you know, even back then, you didn't necessarily need to be a resident to do it. So a lot of people have been talking about that. But this here from Electa is a really, really smart move. Election in Battle River-Crowfoot will look different. Given the unusually high number of candidates and past challenges with large ballots, and they're showing us what a large ballot actually looks like, Elections Canada will use an adapted ballot. Instead of marking their choice in a circle, electors will need to write the name of the candidate they are voting for on the ballot. A complete list of candidates will be available. As long as the intent of the elector is clear in writing a candidate's name, the vote will count. If an elector writes only the name of the political party, the vote will not count. As always, the ballot will have integrity safeguards, and election workers will count all the ballots in front of witnesses. So this is what's going on. So basically, it's very similar, if not the same, as a special ballot as it exists now. Now, again, do not worry if you're not able to write the name of the candidate perfectly well. The bias in Canadian law is so long as the intention of the voter is clear. So if you write down Pierre Poliver rather than Poilievre, your vote will count for Pierre. That's not a problem. If you write Bonnie Crotchley instead of Critchley, it's going to be fine, right? Your intent will be clear, and the scrutineers will be able to count it. It will be a longer job for the scrutineers, slightly longer, but not as long as having to unfold a ballot that has 200 something names on it. It's just That's just ridiculous. I think on some of the shows, they were showing us, how unwieldy that ballot is. And there are people, again, the dexterity issues, mobility issues, whatnot, that just handling that type of ballot is too big. The number of extra ballot boxes that are needed to be able to stuff them in when they're folded and to put them, it's very, very complicated. So there will be no longest ballot, which kind of delivers a blow to the longest ballot committee. Now, of course, there will be lots of sheets of paper with the names of all the candidates on them for people to consult and look at, but the ballot itself will be a simple ballot that folds in two, in which you write the name, not the party, but the name of the candidate for whom you wish to vote, and then put it in the box. So the goal of creating the longest ballot ever in history, this time around with 209 names on it, did not happen because there will not be that kind of ballot. Um, I think it was a genius move by Elections Canada, and Bonnie Critchley, I'm sure, will be happy because that's what she's recommending that people do now. Remember my name, go to your returning office, write my name on the ballot. Well, on election day, you're going to have to go to your polling station and write her name on the ballot. It's genius. She was ahead of the curve on this one. So Elections Canada, my hat's off to you. That's a good way to handle the situation, particularly for the sake of the people who are working at the polling station. There's no need for them to be up until like 4 o'clock in the morning unfolding these ballots and then looking for the name where the check mark is on a list of 209. That's that's insane. So this is a decision that's good for the voters, a decision that is good for the people who are working the polling station, probably good for the candidates, and well, particularly the ones with the greater name recognition, at least. And it does thwart the Longest Ballots Committee uh, push to actually have the longest ballot to make the process unwieldy. Yes, you still have to go through the 209 candidates if you don't know who you're voting for already to find their name on the list before you vote. But that's the complication now, as opposed to having to manipulate something that's long and cumbersome and and that it would affect people with mobility issues of some kind. So hats off to you, Elections Canada. Well done. That's definitely the way that you do it. So uh, the Longest Ballot Committee gets to protest the way the way that it wants to, and with whatever success it gets, the voters have a process that is much simpler, and those who work and count the votes also have a process that is much simpler that won't keep them there for hours. So they will not be punished for putting their name in to count ballots and making sure that we actually have a fair by election. So for me, this is um, a win-win-win. I see Kitlinda saying, I think Elections Alberta deserves commendation for coming up with a fair solution within the confines of the voting regulations. Just a gentle correction, that's Elections Canada, because this is a federal by-election, not a provincial one. So, yeah, absolutely. Uh, I think that, yeah, like I said, a very, very smart solution so that everybody gets a bit of what they want, uh, but also might have to cause the Longest Ballot Committee to review its strategy to find another way to make its point. Because there's nothing wrong with the point they want to make, right? Let's make it very clear. There's a lot of people there's some people that turn around and say, "Oh, so you don't care about having a democratic vote?" No, we care about having a democratic vote, and we do have a democratic vote. First past the post is a democratic vote. It might not be the voting system that a lot of people prefer, but it is democratic. It's not undemocratic. People would want another system. That's fine. You're entitled to that, to want that. There's nothing wrong with that. You're entitled to campaign for that. You're entitled to push for that reform. Absolutely. There's nothing wrong with that, right? You can be against, you could be for a cause and against a tactic, right? I would like a different way of vote. I prefer the single transferable vote, right? Or a ranked ballot, as it's called more commonly. I prefer that. I would like that to be the way that we vote. Absolutely. So I'm not against democratic reform, but I probably would not try to piss off the voters. I would adopt different strategies to make my case. I would do my advocacy and my activism in a bit of a different way than they are choosing to do so. So you can and this is where you realize where the argument is often disingenuous, right? If you don't agree with our tactics, then you must not support democracy. No, I support democracy. I just don't agree with that tactic, right? I even support, and the other implication is if you still support first past the post, if you're a Canadian who quite enjoys first past the post, you sit there and you go, hey, this has served us for X number of years and has served us relatively well, right? We're 150 something years as a country and we're one of the premier countries in the world. We have one of the best electoral systems in the world. It has served us well, even though it hasn't served us in the way that a lot of people would like to, right? Does it mean that I do not support democracy or that I do not want democracy if I would want first past the post to continue? It is a democratic system. So this whole thing that we do not have democracy or that our voting system is undemocratic is never something that I've bought into. It's a system that we've all agreed to go by convention. There are others. They have Each system, some of them has things that are better and things that are not as good that we have to trade off because every system, if you're changing from one to another, is it's a balance of trade-offs. You gain things and you lose things, right? And you have to determine which are the things that are important to you that you don't want to lose and which are the ones that you want to gain and whether the gain is worth what it is that you have to trade off to get it. And it's not just vote for this system and everything will be better, inherently more democratic. It's There are flaws in every system and there are ways to circumvent every system, right? So that's where this movement kind of loses me is when they want me. This is a persuasion exercise, and if you want to persuade me that we need to change voting system, and then you want to persuade me to change to the voting system that you would prefer, if you open by accusing me of being undemocratic because I say, I understand what you're trying to do and I don't disagree with it, but I wouldn't go about it that way. If that makes me a supporter of tyranny, then you've lost the persuasion exercise because all that does is get my back up. And I'm sure there are many Canadians who feel the same way. So, yes, a great move by Elections Canada here in order to ensure that everybody has a chance to do what they want to do with the most minimal amount of disruption. So, hats off, Elections Canada. I don't know if there are other things that can be done that can be implemented for future elections, and I'm sure Elections Canada will study that. But of course, they are bound by election law. And when you start political parties changing election law is always a very touchy subject, right? There's an inherent conflict of interest from elected officials changing the laws that govern and regulate how it is they get their seats. Same thing with conflict of interest laws. There's a certain inherent conflict of interest of being the one that determines what is a conflict of interest and what are the penalties for violating it. Probably should be left to other people to do that. Yeah, we'll see what happens with that. Other news in Battle River-Crowfoot, it seems, it is debate night. Well, I'm not sure if you can call it an actual debate, but there will be a candidate forum tonight in Battle River-Crowfoot. Very excited about that. I believe it is scheduled to start at 7 p.m. Local time in Alberta. So the doors will open at 6:30, and it will take place at the Cargill Theatre in the Jean and Peter Lougheed Performing Arts Centre in Camrose, Alberta. The tickets are already sold out, so there seems to be high demand. It seems that there is about uh, 10 candidates from what I last heard that had registered and said that they wanted to speak. I'm not sure if Pierre is one of them. I hope he is one of them because sure would be um, quite a statement to parachute yourself into a riding, say that I want to represent you, and then not show up to a candidates forum or a candidates debate. I know that Pierre doesn't like showing up to debates, and the party itself doesn't like its candidates showing up to debates. But this would be one PR wise that if you're saying, hey, lend me your vote once so I can access Parliament, so that I can then forget you and go back to my regularly scheduled running for PM again. You might want to show up and ask people for their vote, right? You might, if you're just going to use people, it might be polite to show up and say, listen, we both know I'm using you like this, but I've come here to ask you in person if I can use you rather than just assume that I can. Yeah, that's going to be taking place tonight. It says here that there will be a live stream accessible at camroselive.ca. So that's camroselive.ca, camroselive.ca. And the live stream will be accessible during the event and for 48 hours following it. So if you would, so camroselive.ca is where the live stream is. And of course, if you are looking for the Chamber of Commerce site, it's a Camrose Chamber, CHAMBER.ca. And there you will find information about it. And here, just going to put it up on the screen here for you kids and cubs so you have an idea what it looks like. So you're on the right page, you stumble upon it here. But it's the Camrose and District Chamber of Commerce here. And again, by-election candidate forum, all the information that I gave over here. And it says here, join us for an engaging and informative evening as the Camrose and District Chamber of Commerce hosts the Battle River-Crowfoot by-election candidate forum. Yay! This public forum offers a valuable opportunity to hear directly from the candidates running to represent our region in Parliament. Attendees will gain insight into each candidate's vision, priorities, and positions on key issues impacting our community and region. What to expect: presentations from registered candidates, a moderated Q&A period. No questions will be accepted the evening of the forum. All questions are to be submitted by July 24th, 4 p.m., so that closing date has already taken place. Lobby tables where candidates can engage with attendees before and after the forum, and a live stream option for those unable to attend in person via camroselive.ca. So yes, tickets are now sold out. And I'm not sure, they haven't listed on the thing whether or not who all the people are who have decided to show up. So I'm looking here to see if there is a newspaper article that would list who has confirmed. So far, I do not see anything. So I guess we'll find out later tonight who has decided to show up. But it will be very interesting to see whether or not Pierre shows up for this one. So yeah, big night. You can bet that Bonnie is getting ready for this, as well as all the other candidates who have asked to speak. So not a debate per se, but I guess they will just present stuff about themselves, and then there will be a Q&A session happening at that time. And of course, some tables in the lobby before and after the event where people who want to talk to specific candidates can and mingle and have their questions asked. So thank you to the Camrose and District Chamber of Commerce for organizing that, getting involved in your community, creating an opportunity for people to get close to the candidates who seek to represent them. This is a very good move, democracy in action. So let's see. And for those who do want to vote early by special ballot, and Bonnie Critchley has already done that. She said when she put out her announcement, she said, I voted today and it was simple. But yes, Camrose Elections Canada is at 6601 48th Avenue, Suite 27 in Camrose, Alberta. So if you happen to be in that area and wish to vote early in that sense, you go to 6601 48th Avenue, Suite 27 in Camrose, and you will be able to do that. So there you go. News from Battle River-Crowfoot. Go, Bonnie, go. Hope that you have a good candidate forum. And like I said, kids and cubs, we are in talk with Bonnie's team to try and figure out a date that we can get her back on the show. Of course, as we're getting close to the 18th, things are happening for her, and she's very busy. I saw there was an article about her in the Tyee, and she just did an interview with our friends from The Breakdown with Nate Pike. Well worth your time if you haven't checked that out yet. So she's managing to get some good coverage there, and like I said, hope to be able to check in with her and get some perspective of how the campaign is going on the ground, what it is that she's learned, and any adjustments that she's made along the way, and what she's gauging her chances as being now that she's had an opportunity to talk to many more of her neighbors and get to see what the feeling of the pulse is in that electoral district. So we're very much looking forward to bring that to you, kids and cubs. All right. Let's see, what else do we have going for you today? There was a pretty big announcement yesterday. The federal Liberals made good on a promise that it made quite some time ago. And this is a request from the province of Prince Edward Island. And this is a request that I've had for quite a long time because there's the Confederation Bridge. For those of you who have seen it, it's a marvel of engineering. I've had an opportunity to drive across it a couple of times when I've had a chance to visit British Columbia, Prince Edward Island, completely wrong side of the country. And kids and cubs, if you have never been to Prince Edward Island, please do make a point of going at some point in your life. It is an absolutely fantastic place. I think I've been 3 times now so far in my life, and every time it's been absolutely just the people are wonderful, everything is wonderful. It's just this beautiful place. Um, and because it's small, there's a charm that's unique to it, and because it's an island, again, a charm that's unique to it. And of course, it's in the Maritimes, which probably the loveliest people in Canada are from the Maritimes and the Atlantic provinces. So, my personal bias. So, you really can't go wrong when you go to Prince Edward Island for a vacation. Um, but uh, because of the bridge and because it's an island, the ferries, it's one of the only provinces in Canada where its own residents have to pay to get in and get out, right? And it makes trade a little more difficult. It makes travel a little more difficult and less affordable. Um, of course, the question is when you reduce the cost of that, there are operational budgets that it affects, but there have been calls for the longest time to either eliminate or reduce that amount, and it seems that this was a promise that was made. And over the course of the week, the new premier of Prince Edward Island, Rob Lands, who is also taking over the chair of the Council of the Federation from Doug Ford now after the last meeting, um, was in the press, applying additional pressure for this to take place. And well, yesterday, the Prime Minister went to PEI and decided to make an announcement. And let's see what the Prime Minister has to say here.
If we're going to build a stronger, more united economy, and we are doing that, we are going to need to make it more affordable to travel around this country for people and for businesses. And that's what we're doing today. As of August 1st, the day Angelo and his family are now leaving the island, Canada's new government is reducing the toll for all vehicles on the Confederation Bridge by more than half, from $25 to $20. Yeah. And we're reducing the tariffs, the fares, by 50% for passengers, for vehicles, for commercial traffic on Eastern ferries, those Eastern ferries that are federally supported, and funding Marine Atlantic to reduce its passenger fares by 50% on both routes and freeze freight rates. So this is big, it's big money. Combined, this is going to save users approximately $100. That's $100 million. Go back into our economy year after year. Savings that'll get funneled back into local businesses. That'll catalyze new investment and forge deeper connections.
So there we go. Prime Minister making the announcement of a reduction in the price of crossing the bridge from $50 to $20, and a reduction of 50% for traffic on ferries. So while this is good news for Prince Edward Island and also New Brunswick and other provinces in the area, um, uh, Premier Holt of New Brunswick was also very happy and excited about the announcement. One premier who was less enthused about the announcement is David Eby of British Columbia. Uh, and, well, the main reason is because there wasn't a similar announcement there in British Columbia, but there is a difference because, if I remember correctly, the ferry service with regard to the East Coast is federally regulated. Marine Atlantic, I believe, is federally owned, whereas the ferry service in British Columbia is provincially owned. Doesn't mean that the federal government couldn't show up with some money to help with that. But according to Simon Little of Global News, British Columbia Premier David Eby tore into the federal government on Monday after Ottawa slashed ferry fares on the East Coast by 50%. Prime Minister Mark Carney announced the rate cuts for the Eastern Canada ferry services, which serve PEI, Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, and Quebec, and Marine Atlantic, the constitutionally mandated ferry service that connects Newfoundland to Nova Scotia earlier Monday. The fare cuts were a federal Liberal election promise. Eby said major new subsidies for East Coast ferries, but not for those in BC, are a symptom of structural unfairness. Quote, not only are we paying billions of additional equalization to Quebec and Manitoba and billions of dollars to Ontario, but we also have to watch the federal government show up on the East Coast and subsidize ferry users that already get a $300 subsidy per each $1 that a BC ferry user gets, Eby said. Now, David Eby being disingenuous on equalization, because again, we have to repeat it, and this is very surprising that this is coming from an NDP premier. Provinces do not pay equalization. There is no time at a point of the year where the federal government goes to the provinces and says, okay, break out your checkbook and write a check to contribute to the equalization fund. As we keep on repeating on the show, equalization is a federal program, not a provincial program. So when all the provinces when all the taxes are collected for provincial provinces, whether it's the federal government who does it and then redistributes them to the province, or whether or not the province, as in Quebec, collects their own and then sends money back, however the arrangement is, because once everything is all squared between the provinces and the federal government with regard to collection of taxes, and each have the portion that belongs to them, to administer, the federal government then takes a pool of its money, the money that is conferred to it to administer, and decides, you know what, we are not going to administer this money. We're going to take this pool of money and we are going to redistribute it to provinces to ensure that Canadians from coast to coast to coast can enjoy the same level of services, particularly as it regards to health and education throughout the country. So if you move from one province to another, you still have similar level and quality of services. So no province pays into equalization. Now, provinces may complain about the formula, how that money is distributed, whatnot, but the provinces do not pay into it and the provinces do not design it. This is an entirely a federal government initiative that they've decided to do this for the benefit of the entire nation. So for David Eby to start saying, not only are we paying billions of additional equalization to Quebec and Manitoba, and $1 billion to Ontario. So basically, and then saying, then we have to watch the federal government. So that first part of the sentence is unnecessarily inflammatory and disinformation. And it's very surprising that David Eby would go there because he knows better. He knows better. And he's talking about additional equalization on top of that, not even just paying equalization, but billions of additional equalization. You're not paying any equalization. And if there's any additional equalization, it would be because the federal government has decided to make the equalization pool bigger. So again, I'm not sure where he's getting this. But yes, there is the fact that the federal government is subsidizing ferry users on one coast and not the other. That part is true. And that enough. I don't know why he had to lie, because the truth alone was sufficient. to do. Quote, the ask is very straightforward. We need the same per capita funding, the same per person funding that any province gets through any other announcement that's made across the country. EB acknowledged that Carney's announcement was an election promise, but said Ottawa has not increased its subsidy for BC ferry users in nearly 2 decades. Marine Atlantic is a federal crown corporation, while the federal government provides financial support to the operators of the 3 Eastern Canada ferry services routes, Northumberland Ferries Limited, Bay Ferries Limited, and Coopérative des Transports Maritimes et Aériens. BC Ferries is wholly owned by the BC provincial government. The 3 Eastern Canada ferry services carry an estimated 531,000 passengers per year, while BC Ferries move more than 22 million annually, so there's also a thing of economies of scale here. In a statement, BC Ferries said ferry transport was, quote, just as essential in BC as on the East Coast, and that without more support could be forced to hike fares by 30% in 2028. Quote, we're partially funded by the province for specific service levels and do receive some federal support, but we also operate one of the largest and most complex ferry systems in the world, and unlike many other jurisdictions, the vast majority of system costs are paid directly by ferry users, the company said. Quote, navigating aging infrastructure, inflationary pressures, and growing demand will require continued collaboration across all levels of government to keep ferry travel reliable, affordable, and sustainable for coastal British Columbians. BC Ferries has been grappling with surging demand and aging vessels. Earlier this year, the company announced plans to procure 4 new, larger vessels from a Chinese shipyard, a move that drew criticism from multiple quarters, including both the federal Liberal Transport Minister Chrystia Freeland and opposition Conservative MPs. Earlier this month, the House of Commons Transport Committee opened a probe into the federal $1 billion loan BC Ferries received for the purchase. BC Ferries said the Chinese bid was $1.2 billion cheaper than competing European offers and presented the best option to keep passenger fares down. The shipyard China Merchants Industry Weihai Shipyards, or CMI Weihai, has also built ferries for Marine Atlantic, one of the recipients of the new federal ferry fare subsidies. So there you go. David Eby, less than pleased. And again, calling for fair treatment for fair users. There's another article here, again, where it's the same data point. He mentions here that the federal government subsidizes ferry users on the East Coast by about $300 per person, while ferry users in BC receive $1 per person. So again, I'm not sure how accurate those numbers are, if those are presented again in the same way the equalization statement has been mentioned in order to inflame, but there doesn't seem to be any correction in the 2 articles that I read having to do with that, that says that the information is incorrect. So I will assume here that Premier Eby is indeed being accurate in this case. Let's see. Eby has said that he would urge the committee to broaden its inquiry, that is looking into the probe, to look at how unfairly BC users are treated compared with Atlantic ferry users. So yes, the opposition parties want to look into, we're giving $1 billion to help them buy stuff from China. Isn't that awful and terrible? And trying to find the bobo in there, where Premier Eby says, since you're looking into things, why don't you look at how unfairly BC users are treated compared with Atlantic ferry users? Because that doesn't seem to be the focus of the probe at the moment. And that would probably be more helpful than what is being proposed. Quote, so I would encourage the federal committee to have a look at the different treatment of the coasts in terms of ferry support. And I think going forward, there is a huge opportunity for us to work with the federal government to ensure that our shipbuilding industry has the opportunity to build these ferries right here in Canada. In a statement to the Canadian press, BC Ferries said it operates, quote, one of the largest and most complex ferry systems in the world, and unlike many other jurisdictions, the vast majority of system costs are paid directly by ferry users, as we mentioned in the previous article. But then they go on to say, just like we mentioned as well, without additional support, fares would need to increase by more than 30% in 2028 alone, just to keep up with operating and capital pressures. Serge Bui, CEO of the Canadian Ferry Association, told CBC News that Ottawa's relationship with BC Ferries, a private company owned by the BC government, and Marine Atlantic is different, as the federal government has a constitutional obligation to support freight and passenger ferry services that connects Nova Scotia with Newfoundland and Labrador. The federal government also subsidizes ferries in the Maritimes through the Ferry Services Contribution Program, which began in 1941 to help fund 3 key interprovincial ferry routes in Atlantic Canada and eastern Quebec. Ottawa's funding for BC Ferries was negotiated by former Premier Bill Bennett in 1977. Quote, "While I certainly hope that more money would be available, I wouldn't call it an unfair proposition," he said. "It's simply moving money where the federal government has some key responsibilities." In a statement, Freeland's office said that, quote, "When it comes to the operating costs, funding is focused on constitutionally mandated and interprovincial ferry services." So there you go. So that's another difference between the ones in Atlantic Canada and out west, in that there is a constitutional mandate for it, stemming from the period of time when Newfoundland and Labrador joined Confederation to ensure that it was connected to the rest of the country, which is not the case for British Columbia. And again, this is uh, the Ferry Services Contribution Program started way back in 1941, whereas Ottawa's funding for BC Ferries was negotiated in 1977, so like 36 years later. So differences in time and differences in premiers, different clauses negotiated. So there you go. But an important announcement for residents of Prince Edward Island, and something that will certainly be a boost to their economy and the tourist industry, and just make it much easier and more affordable for people to leave the island as well to go and explore the rest of Canada as they need to. Very, very good decision, campaign promise that was kept. Good follow through. Sounds good. On the other side of the ledger, however, it would seem that when it comes to the Pharmacare deal, which was reached late in the Trudeau mandate, um, there might be less of a commitment to it, it seems. And the source of it is kind of interesting because the Minister of Health is Marjorie Michel, who is the MP for Papineau, the riding that Trudeau used to hold before his retirement from politics. But according to Marco Vigliotti, the editor-in-chief of iPolitics, the federal Liberals are not committing to signing new Pharmacare funding deals, a move that critics says sends a bad signal to provinces considering joining the program. Under Justin Trudeau's leadership, the Liberals passed legislation last year to take the first step towards a national Pharmacare program by having Ottawa cover the cost of contraceptives and diabetes medications for patients. The federal government signed funding deals with Prince Edward Island, British Columbia, Manitoba, and Yukon before the spring election, though there hasn't been a new agreement reached since. The Liberals campaigned on maintaining the Pharmacare program, but were non-committal about expanding the list of covered medications. When asked last week why talks weren't progressing with the remaining provinces, Health Minister Marjorie Michel told reporters that this is a new government in a new context, according to the Canadian press. Now, when I hear that, um, what I hear is, yeah, we're just not that into this program anymore. Which was not what they campaigned on. A spokesperson told iPolitics the government would, quote, "protect the 4 signed Pharmacare agreements as well as the Canada Dental Plan program. Quote, "Universal, accessible, and publicly funded healthcare is a point of pride for Canadians, and it underpins our economic strength," said Émilie Gauduchon-Campbell in a statement. "Our new government will be there to discuss with our provincial and territorial partners to see how we can support them for better health outcomes for Canadians, because we cannot build a strong Canada without a healthy population." That seems like platitude central. A group that advocates for universal health care said the minister's comments were concerning and worried the Liberals were walking away from their election commitments. Quote, "I think this is sending a very bad signal to provinces and territories that have been contemplating joining the program. The legislation only passed in October, and this sentence is, there's a typo in the sentence. So let me see if I can figure it out as we go. The legislation only passed in October, and the federal government had 4 agreements done by the time the election was called. And there are other provinces in the queue," said Stephen Staples, National Director of Policy and Advocacy for the Canadian Health Coalition. Quote, "We need to hear some clarity from the government about whether they're going to meet their promise to protect Pharmacare." Interim NDP leader Don Davies accused the Liberals of, quote, "breaking their promise to start delivering Pharmacare," calling it a, quote, betrayal of the millions of Canadians who are waiting their turn to access free prescription medication. Let's be clear. Families need a government that fights for them, not one that allows huge profitable drug companies to cash in when people are sick. Canadians are struggling with the high cost of prescription medicines because they're being gouged by these pharmaceutical giants. With Trump's trade war and Mark Carney's proposed cuts to federal services, things will only get worse for working families. It's unclear how many other provinces are coming forward to reach new agreements with Ottawa. New Brunswick's Liberal government recently said that it hasn't made any progress in reaching a Pharmacare deal and hasn't heard from Ottawa since the April election. The provincial Liberals campaigned in the fall 2024 vote on covering the cost of contraceptives. A New Brunswick government spokesperson said the province doesn't support the Fed's Pharmacare plan despite approving the principle behind it. The province instead asked Ottawa to fund contraception access, quote, as a first step in advancing Pharmacare, and put any additional federal funding towards making our existing drug plans more affordable for New Brunswickers. A spokesperson for Ontario's health minister directed any questions about Pharmacare to the federal government. Saskatchewan's health ministry said it would, quote, engage constructively with Ottawa, but needed to understand if their Pharmacare program will enhance the province's existing drug coverage plans. The province added that, quote, any proposed national Pharmacare program must be designed and implemented in partnership with our current provincial systems. Yes, but also the government of Saskatchewan could do what other provinces could so easily do, and maybe some have done, is I believe it might have been Manitoba that did that. But take the if their drug plans are already covering contraceptives and diabetes medicine, you take the federal money, you use that to cover that portion, and then the money that frees up, you use it to cover other services. Right? It's not that complicated. And Ottawa doesn't need to do anything for that. You just use the money to pay for what you're already paying for instead. And the money that frees up, you apply it and you expand your program with it. And Ottawa doesn't need to do anything, and you don't need Ottawa's permission to do that. So I'm not sure what Saskatchewan is proposition here is when they say that. The highest price tag of the program is also raising questions. In the 2024 budget, the Liberals pegged the cost of the first phase of a Pharmacare program at $1.5 billion over the next 5 years. But Prime Minister Mark Carney has pledged to balance the government's operational budget by 2029. And Finance Minister François-Philippe Champagne recently asked his cabinet colleagues to come forward with, quote, ambitious savings proposals. Champagne said that he wants to cut operational spending by 7.5% for the 2026-27 fiscal year, 10% the following year, and 15% in 2028-29. Staples said he's heard concerns about the price tag, but once the program rolls out, it will lead to, quote, cost savings for overall healthcare budgets and likely spark further interest and expansion. As of the latest estimates, the Liberals have allocated just over $100 million for Pharmacare agreements. The Pharmacare law commits the government to funding any deal reached with the provinces and territories. Now, here's my concern about this, because there is a material difference when you tell Canadians, we will keep childcare, pharmacare, and dental care. And when you tell Canadians, we will keep childcare, dental care, and the existing Pharmacare agreements, but we will not expand on them, and we will not fund any other province who already wants to join the established program. Right? There's a difference between we are keeping the program as a whole and we are keeping the program as it is and will not do anything to ensure that the program that was passed legislatively will be fully implemented. When somebody campaigns on we are keeping Pharmacare, I hear we are keeping Pharmacare, and even though it's not fully implemented yet, when it comes to contraceptives and at least diabetes medication, without expanding it to anything else, is that we will support the full implementation, all of the provinces and territories at least reaching the deal on contraceptives and diabetes medication. And this is more like, well, there are 4 provinces that signed in before the wire, and we're not going to affect them, but it's a new reality now. That's not the same thing. That's a bit of a bait and switch. And if I was living in Saskatchewan and New Brunswick and was supportive of Pharmacare, I would be right pissed right now that that is the signal that we are getting. That, yeah, you know what? We promised that we would protect it, but we're really not all that into it and helping other provinces being able to join the program as it is now. Um, this could be a mistake. Down the road, this could prove to be a rather substantive mistake. Um, it's not. I think it's a little low and personally a little low and underhanded. There are 13 jurisdictions, 9 have not signed on yet. And to basically send the signal, don't bother, as far as we're concerned, it's dead. Pharmacare is as it is now, and it will never be anything more. That's not what they campaigned on when they said that they were going to protect Pharmacare. That's not what the average person understood. So yeah, this is a very disappointing bait and switch if that is indeed the case. If no other provinces will be funded to reach the level, provinces and territories will be funded to reach the level that some already have achieved, even if they want to. Now, on the other side of the ledger, that we haven't seen those other provinces be too eager to want to join it for whatever reasons they have. But should some want to, you would think that the federal government would say, well, you know, it is legislation. We passed it. The money will flow. And whether or not that is what they mean, or whether or not they're saying this as a means to suppress other provinces expressing a desire to join, because it'll either be more difficult. It won't be as easy as saying, you know what, we're ready to join now. Where do we sign? Um, yeah, that does not sit well with me. I have to admit, it seems like I said, an underhanded bait and switch. So we'll see how that pans out. But at the moment, yeah, that 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 does not generate the greatest amount of enthusiasm uh, here. And when you start having fun with words that way and start parsing sentences and promises in that way, what it does for me, at least, is it puts that bug in my ear and then it makes me listen to everything that you say with, yeah, but what's the catch? Rather than, oh, okay, I'm taking your word for it. So I'm hoping that this is not a habit that instills itself with this particular government, because it would be one um, that could be good on a specific issue at some point, but I'm not sure it's one that is going to last if one is playing the long game here, particularly with your credibility and your um, the value of your word, basically. Uh, Finally, since we have a little bit of time here, a little bit of extra on trade here. As we mentioned yesterday, we're talking about uh, the United States having signed allegedly a trade deal with Japan and with the EU, and people wondering why we don't have one with Canada yet. And we've been talking a lot about over the past weeks. Um, the government of Canada changing messaging to a deal without tariffs might not be possible, which is kind of interesting because somebody did point out something that was true that never dawned on me. We have never had a trade deal with the United States that has not come with tariffs. The softwood lumber issue has been there the whole time, uh, right? And there have been other things where there have been small tariffs. There has never been in Canada a situation of a trade deal with the United States that didn't have some side tariffs. I was like, oh yeah, That's true, actually, come to think of it. But right now, it seems that other nations, it seems that the minimum price to pay to do business with the United States is now a 15% tariff. Now, of course, we are not paying it, American citizens are, but it does reduce demand for our products and does provide incentives for more onshoring of things within the United States, right? And people to make decisions about where their foreign investment dollars are going to go. And naturally, the thinking is that they will flow towards the bigger, more powerful market. Not always, but that's the natural instinct, and usually that is the case. Somebody sits in the back room, with the visor and the calculator and says, you know what? Well, yeah, I think we can afford to sacrifice Canada because the opportunities are just larger in the United States. But this is not where it stops with the United States, right? There is no stability, there is no predictability here. And we saw the EU basically make a deal, quote unquote, for 15% tariffs. And the thing that we're starting to figure out here is that even though the baseline tariff was supposed to be 10%, from what we could tell originally, it now seems to be 15% because that's what Japan kind of signed on to. And that is what the EU's kind of signed on to. And so everybody's kind of looking at that and saying, well, I'm guessing that if we're going to get something along the line or somewhere down the way, that's probably what we're going to end up getting here is a 15% sort of base tariff. And then, of course, there's going to be all those additional sectoral tariffs that he puts on us on a whim. But there was a very, very interesting contribution by Lisa Raitt, which really surprised me because, how would I put it? It's not that Lisa Raitt is incapable of objective and truly impartial commentary. She is capable. She has had a reputation for the longest time of being more of a progressive conservative than a hardcore conservative, even though that has changed over the past little bit. She seems to dive into it a little bit more. But this comment was surprising by how, um, to me, based on a lot of things that she said lately, how actually on point and non-present it was. I sent it to you because if Lisa Raitt is saying this, was on the conservative side of the ledger, uh, that means the window is shifting.
There's also the question of what's going to be covered by what would inevitably be a framework deal, if indeed we got one. And it doesn't seem like steel, aluminum, auto, or softwood would necessarily be part of that. If it's not, Lisa Raitt, then where does that leave Canadians?
Oh, well, it leaves Ontarians in a really awkward position because they're the most trade exposed in all of those sectors. And that's probably why you're hearing Premier Ford have such strong language around what's happening right now. It is a very big concern in Ontario as to what's going to happen with the tariffs. I'm actually getting to the point where I'm thinking that maybe signing on the dotted line of a deal that's passed by our House and their Congress, maybe that isn't the best path for us to take, because perhaps we want something that can actually be undone by a future government or a future configuration of Congress or the House of Representatives. Because at this point in time, Mr. Trump can decide just to bring in his security clearance or his security kind of tariffs at any given moment, even if we sign something. And one thing I do know is that even if it isn't, I would say, good for Canada, the United States don't necessarily let you off the hook when it comes to having a deal with them. Even if it's not a great deal for your partner, they're not going to rewrite a deal. So maybe signing a deal isn't the path forward. I know it sounds contrary to everything we talk about, but maybe a tariff is a lot easier to be swept away than an actual deal.
So, whoa, when I heard that, because It's actually a thought that I've been considering, right, for the last little while. I'm wondering, like, what if there is no trade deal possible? And of course, the next question that flows from that, well, if we didn't have a deal, would that be so bad? Because a lot of the rhetoric is going, well, there's a deal with Japan, and there's a deal with the United States. You know who doesn't have a deal yet? Canada. Gee, way to go, Mark Carney. We thought that you were the guy to get it done. Again, framing this as if a deal with the United States is actually a good thing, and going first is actually a good thing. There's been no evidence of that whatsoever. But Lisa Raitt does raise a very important point. If there is no deal, we have CUSMA at the moment for the time that it lasts until Trump decides he doesn't want that anymore and it tries to put the squeeze on us that way. But if you actually agree to terms and you make a concession, the United States usually doesn't let you go back on that at one point. But if there's just a tariff with a change of administration, which a change of something, can we get rid of that tariff maybe later? Yeah. Is it a better idea to live under Trump's tariffs for the next couple of years and hoping that you can make a better deal with another administration later, rather than signing a deal which puts your name on something that makes it hard to reverse later? It's a question I haven't heard asked a lot, but it's a salient question, and it's one that a lot of people should consider, that maybe the best deal with the United States is no deal. I'm not exactly sure where I stand on that, but bringing up the point of, possibly waiting this administration out and being able to get a better fundamental base deal with regards to tariffs before going into another deal. That might not be dumb. I would like some minds that are much better than mine to actually sit down and consider it and figure it out, because that might be an option that we do need to put on our list. The other thing, again, Lisa Raitt, I don't know, was inordinately doing really well yesterday. But she made another point that some people have made, but I have not been seeing it all that much. But this is something that's very, very important to keep on remembering, because what Trump says and what the deal is are two very different things.
Nick LeBlanc has argued is deeply invested in the U.S. already because of pensions and other stock funds. Would that be enough to convince the Americans? Lisa, I'll go to you. This is your world.
Yeah, you know what? I think that the EU or Japan or the UK, I don't think they have deals. I think they have announceables. And I don't know whether or not that's actually going to be put down into terms and conditions. And quite frankly, what happens if you're not adhering to the deal, some kind of dispute mechanism that's needed in anything that's a real deal. The only people who have a real deal is Canada and Mexico. We have our real deal that has to be figured into some kind of consideration. The rest of it, I think, are just the hopes of appeasing a president who wants to make it an announcement that I made 90 deals in 90 days or whatever the heck the soundbite is. And that's basically it. I wouldn't put these on any kind of pedestal of it being a deal. And that's why it's dangerous for Canada to agree to reconfigure CUSMA, which is a real deal, and have something else that's in the works, whereas everybody else is just kind of making announcements. And I guess as time goes by, we'll see more and more whether or not this is something that the other countries are doing just to appease Mr. Trump and trying to make their way to the next midterm elections and wonder whether or not the Republicans in this form are going to hang on.
So again, another great comment and consideration here. While all these people are going around trashing Canada, saying, well, all these other nations got deals and we're not able. Gee, Mark Carney has already failed. These are not deals, as we mentioned, right? Deals are lots of pages with lots of texts and like I's to dot and T's to cross, where every comma is specifically determined. And these types of deals normally have a dispute resolution mechanism, which I'm sure they haven't agreed to. And all these types of things that Lisa Raitt is talking about, they are announceables. but they are not deals. They are things that they've announced, and then somebody's supposed to work behind the scenes to actually write out all this additional language in order to be able to implement them. And there might be some countries that are just saying, yeah, we'll sign whatever, and then we'll just do whatever. Right? Because Trump is essentially lazy, and they're never get to the point of actually putting pen to paper, to hammering out how these deals actually manifest themselves in real life. And nothing stops Trump from turning around like he does to us and says, oh, well, you're cheating, and then switch the deal. So again, maybe no deal is better than deal this time. And maybe we shouldn't be getting into a panic by watching other countries allegedly sign deals, as Donald Trump calls them, because they're not deals. Not in the way that Kuzma is. Like, not even close to a deal. Two comments that are actually pretty bang on, that give people a lot to think about, and should not be rejected just because they came from a conservative. But these are some legitimate questions that we should probably need to consider in our move forward. But right now, it just seems to be that a deal, air quotes, with Donald Trump is you pay us for the privilege of doing business in our country. Yes, which means, and you do not impose any tariffs on your own so that we can access yours. So we get everything that we want, and you get nothing that you wanted. You get a 15% baseline tariff, and you still get the 50% tariff on steel and aluminum, and you still get whatever Sector 232 tariffs that I'm going to come up with. And if I decide to hit softwood lumber or pharmaceuticals or semiconductors or whatnot, well, that's my right. So I get everything I want. You get nothing that you want. The victor and the vanquished. And that's just how business is now with the United States. So if we're going to get nothing we want, and Trump gets everything he wants, why sign a deal? Why sign a deal? Why make a concession at all? So fine, we'll take the tariff. And we'll work around it. We'll find workarounds too. So it might be a thing. Turn around and say, you know what, fine, we'll take the 15% tariff, and hopefully that will buy us enough time before you decide to do something weird to Kuzma for us to reorient our economy, diversify our trade flows, and make sure that all these resources that you don't say you need, but you really, really want, because we know you need them, that we start diverting them to other places, so that when you finally come to your senses and saying, oh yeah, you know what, we do need that softwood lumber after all. Sorry, buddy, but France is getting that now. Well, we'll take those critical minerals. Oh, sorry, Germany's got that now. Sorry, military equipment. Sorry, we will take your whatever. We will take your oil and gas now. Oh, sorry, that's been rerouted to Japan and Korea. Sorry, you can't have those now. We have a 20-year deal. So the supply is gone. You'll have to find it somewhere else. Maybe it's that. Maybe it's just, again, moving the strategy ahead might just be trying to reduce our trade with the United States to only that which is absolutely necessary, and having the rest of our trade with everyone else around the world. Could be. Canada and Mexico recently signed a $120 billion deal for a trade corridor, marine and air, not going over land, so that we don't have to ship things through the United States to each other and get slapped with those tariffs. Once those trade routes, those corridors are in place and trade is going, and all the adjustments are made, for learning in the new process, that's money that never, ever, ever, ever goes back to the United States. Anything that gets traded that way then becomes the new normal. And those are billions and billions and billions of dollars that the United States loses both from Mexico and Canada forever. We're going to be buying more military stuff from Europe and Asia. We're not going to be spending 75 cents of every dollar now in the United States for military procurement. Again, this is money and supply and business that the United States is willingly giving up, not only from us, but all those other nations fighting 200 trade wars all at once. And the full impacts of those tariffs have not been felt yet by the U.S. consumer. But, still some things, Stellantis has recorded losing over $1 billion in the last quarter in the United States alone. That's going to affect people. Apparently, Stellantis hasn't raised the cost of their cars yet, possibly because they're afraid of being singled out by Trump for some type of public humiliation. But at some point, they're going to have to, or people are going to have to lose jobs. You can't keep on losing $1 billion per quarter and not change anything. So, like I said, about 4 or 5 months when all the inventory supply that they stocked up beforehand kind of gets depleted, and there might be a whole lot more screaming and yelling coming from the residents of the United States who were not prepared like we are for difficult times. They've never had their leader saying, you know what, it's going to require some sacrifices. The United States Americans have been told that everything's going to be great and that they're going to be awash in money and there's going to be all this economic activity and life is going to be great. There was no request or nothing letting them know that there would be pain and suffering coming, as opposed to us. We're ready for it. We've been told, and we said, yeah, fine, we'll take that on because it's worth it. It'll be interesting to see how things develop, kids and cubs. Stay tuned. But some interesting things with the European deal, like I mentioned, right? I'll believe it when it lasts. According to a journalist who goes by the name of Olga Nestorova, who's a foreign affairs journalist and a former UN diplomat. There's been this little development. You know how we mentioned the deal with Japan. Donald Trump said that Japan would do all these things, and the government of Japan then turned around and said, we don't know what that is, and we haven't signed that. Well, it seems Olga Nestorova says, if you're drinking, put the cup down. Ready? Now read this. During trade talks, the EU pledged to invest $600 billion into the American economy. But as Political reports just a few hours later, Brussels admitted it doesn't have the authority to make such a commitment. I love it. The EU cannot decide on that, to spend $600 on buying energy from the United States without the full approval of all member states, which is not currently put up for a vote. When is a deal not a deal, but an announceable, as Lisa Raitt pointed out. Okay, kids and cubs, that's the end of this episode of the Daily Beaver Morning Show. We hope that you love listening to us because we love making this for you. Remember, sharing is caring and word of mouth is priceless, so tell your peeps and poops all about us. We really love it when you do, especially when you include some words of your own to let them know how it is that you enjoy the show or what it is that you have found that resonates with you. So thank you for your help with that. And, well, we would like to help you. If you are busy and on the go and cannot watch the Daily Beaver Morning Show, either live with the DAMFAM or at your own convenience because, you've got stuff to do, well, we are portable. Take us with you. Our ears-only version made available to you by the generous contribution of the Ray Girl. If you go to our pod page, podpage.com/thetruenortheagerbeaver with a hyphen between each one of those words, and click on subscribe, when we have something fresh off the podcast bandwidth, it goes directly into your favorite podcast feed, and then you can just pop us into your ears and take us with you. We're portable and fun-sized. So, hey, take us with you. That way you can keep abreast of everything that's going on, still maintain your status as an engaged and an informed citizen, but still get through your day. We're handy. We like to be. Now, if you would like to help us, then maybe you can increase our numbers. We've hit 20,000, but we're greedy. We want more. So please make your way to the True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated YouTube page, where Kits, Cassie, and Elaine will be beckoning you to play with our buttons, like, share, and subscribe. Give them a little flick, give them a kick, give them a lick. It makes us happy when you do, and it helps us with the algorithm. So thank you for your support. And if you would like to help us in other ways, we are getting to the end of the month and rent is due. So if you would like to help us here at the Beaver Lodge with the costs that we incur to bring this show to you because you like it and you would like to encourage us to do more, then a contribution to the Beaver Lodge Emergency Hydration Fund. And normally this is where I take a sip from my cup, but I think my Beaver sweetie took the cup and put it in the dishwasher because I do not see it on my desk anymore. So I can't do that. So if you would like to do your bit to make sure that you keep your favorite beaver moist and that he has a cup again, well, maybe a contribution to the Eager Beaver Lodge Emergency Hydration Fund would help with that. A couple of loonies or toonies in the fund when it hits the bottom of the jar. It makes such a lovely sound, and it also brings us some happy. So thank you so much for everybody who is able to contribute something. And if you're not able to contribute financially, please do not worry because the gifts of your attention and participation are the ones that mean the most to us. And we want to hear from you. TrueNorthEagerBeaver@gmail.com is our email address. Please write to us with your thoughts about the show, what you like, didn't like, what you would like us to do more of, some suggestions for guests. All of it matters to us. And that same email address, if you are still buying Canadian, will help you make a contribution to the Eager Beaver Lodge Emergency Hydration Fund in a totally buy Canadian way, bank to bank. 100% of your donation comes to us and 0% goes to a US tech bro middleman. So thank you very much for everything that you do to help us. If you want to reach us via our socials at True Eager at the Blue Sky Beaver Lodge on the Jitter, True North Eager Beaver on Facebook, or right here on our YouTube page, whether you are watching live with the DAMFAM or at your own convenience, leave us something down here in the comments section. We read absolutely everything, even though we're not able to get back to you, and all of your donations and all of your comments get fed back into the show in order to make a better product for you. So thank you for all that you do to help us. Because democracy is something that you do, kids and cubs, please be sure to tune in to the candidate forum tonight coming from Camrose. Again, the website for that, oh darn, I can't, camroselive.ca. camroselive.ca at 7 p.m. Alberta time. So make sure that you make the time adjustment for the area in the country that you are in. And donations at bonniecritchleyindependent.com is where you can send a little money if you want to support Bonnie Critchley in her campaign, in her effort to defeat Pierre Poilievre, because in a riding that big, a little gas money goes a long way. Get some cubs. Words of wisdom. Unfortunately, darn, it seems that we are, I'm not going to be playing tennis. Oh no, that's tomorrow. My tennis match for tomorrow has gotten canceled. So today there's still tennis. So kids and cubs, my words of wisdom is whatever court it is you play on, whatever it is your abilities at the moment, just get on there and make sure that you have a positive experience. Win or lose, make sure that you get something out of it, whether it's just some learning, whether it's just a fun time. When you go out today and decide to serve up your own aces, make sure that you get a little something out of it, that you're not just given, but that you're getting a little as well. Right? Sometimes you got to replenish the tank, and it's not selfish to make sure that your needs are being taken care of too. There you go. Kids and cubs, it could be a tough world out there, so please be kind to and gentle with yourself. And now, kids and cubs, at the count of 3, could I have a rousing rendition of Mr. Beaver? Please cue the cock on 1, 2, 3. Ooh, yes, I heard that. Even you, all the way back and to the left, I heard you. I must oblige. You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters. CanadianTarot.com, their uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community, and the Peppermaster. Hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. We are grateful to the Crier Media Network for its support, Pete Jarvis for our artwork, and Paul Joseph Something for our opening and closing sequence music. Well, there, kids and cubs. So glad that you are back with us. Before we go, a little bit of news of Canadians who make us proud. Kids and cubs on the tennis courts yesterday at the National Bank Open. Some great results for Team Canada. Or for Canadian tennis players. Alexis Galarneau had his first ATP Tour victory in a very good match against Pablo Carreño Busta, I believe it is, from Spain, winning and advancing to the second round. Dan Martin, who came out of the qualifications, had a very, very tough opponent in a Spaniard whose last name is Munar, who's playing lights out, but still delivered a good performance for his first ATP Tour level match, main draw match. Carson Branstein, who's been lighting it up lately, was played against Maria Sakkari of Greece, and it went to 3 full sets, and she almost pulled a huge upset. It went down to the wire. Unfortunately, Sakkari's experience prevailed in that particular case. But again, Carson Branstein showing that she plays a very, very, very exciting form of tennis and has all the tools needed to go far, and definitely rise on where she is in the rankings. Kayla Cross, who is someone who's emerging, recently entered the top 300, had a match against a top 70 player and did manage to take a set off her, the first set, so played very well. Ariana Arsenault as well, singles player also in the 500s or so, was playing Naomi Osaka, several-time Grand Slam champion, and acquitted herself very well. Again, made a very good first impression playing in her first singles match like that. Liam Drexel, who was on a big tear, having played every single match of the last 3 tournaments, winning one and being a finalist in the other 2, he was the one that was playing Pablo Carreño Busta, sorry. And he won the first set and then was starting to have troubles with his shoulder after playing so much tennis and so much time, and was not able to get through the match, unfortunately. But all the way through, and he was able to complete the match, but wasn't able to get his first victory. But he's hovering right around the top 100, and he almost scored the biggest victory of his life there last night. Eugénie Bouchard, as we mentioned yesterday, in what was supposed to be her swan song, was playing a Colombian player, Emiliana Arango, and defeated her. So she gets to move on to the second round and extends her career just a little longer, which is very good. As we mentioned, Carson Branstein took it to 3 sets against Maria Sakkari, and Alexis Galarneau was playing Arthur Rinderknecht, actually, and defeated him 7-6, 3-6, 7-6, 6-3, sorry. A very convincing win for him, which is surprising in some ways for people who don't really know him, but wasn't surprising for me because there's been a couple of times in Davis Cup play where he has indeed shown that he can be a giant killer and take down some big names. And he seems to be a big game player on the big stage. He seems to shine at that particular moment. So he did. So great results from all of them. Canadians punching way above their weight at the National Bank Open. Also, Kylie Mass had qualified for the final, the 100-meter backstroke, which took place this morning, and unfortunately just missed a medal, missed the podium by finishing fourth in the final, with Taylor Ruck of Kelowna, British Columbia, also making the final and finishing in seventh place. Finally, kids and cubs, over the past few weeks, the World University Games, Summer Games, were taking place in Germany, in the Rhine area, and Team Canada came back with 8 medals, 2 gold, 1 silver, 11 medals, 2 gold, 1 silver, and 8 bronze from the event. In track and field, the women's 4x400-meter relay, composed of Paige Williams, Tyra Borg, Georgia Oland, and Favor Okpali, won bronze. And in the pole vault, Rachel Grenke won bronze as well. In artistic gymnastics, it was a historical event for the Canadian men's team, with Felix Dolce winning the gold in the horizontal bar. And he qualified for the floor final but had to pull out. Team Canada also won silver in the men's team event. So Felix Dolce, William Imard, Ioannis Chronolopoulos, Matteo Bardana, and Jason Rampersad all combined for that, which was the highest medal that Canada has ever had in its history participating in the games. Then William Imar took the bronze in the men's all-around as well as the rings and finished 5th in the parallel bars apparatus. And he was a reservist in that one, but somebody pulled up and he was called up at the last minute and still managed to pull out a 5th place finish there. In swimming, in the women's 100 meter, there was bronze in the breaststroke for Shauna Branton, and in the 200 meter, there was bronze for Ashley McMillan. Earlier in the meet, McMillan was 5th in the 100-meter backstroke, missing the podium by 0.58 seconds. And in other finals action, Ottawa's Julie Brosseau came 4th in the women's 400-meter freestyle by 0.2 seconds, 7th in the women's 200-meter freestyle. She competed in Paris as well, and she's working her way back from an ankle injury. She finished 8th in the 800 free earlier in the meet, and she was also part of Canada's 5th-place women's 4x200 free relay, and along with McMillan, 6th place, 4x100 free relay. There's also Benjamin Lowen, who was 4th, so close, and the men's 200-meter butterfly, missing by 26 hundredths of a second. He was also 6th in the men's 200-meter backstroke final, and he qualified with a personal best in his semifinal. Finally, in Taekwondo, in the 54-kilogram category, Nithan Brindamohan won gold. In the 67-kilogram category for women, Leonarda Andrick won bronze, and the men's team won bronze in the Pumse event in Taekwondo. So there you go. Some Canadians who have worked very hard to make us proud, and we tip our hats. That's all I've got for you today, kids and cubs. So we'll be off, and we'll be back again tomorrow, where I hope to see you all happy and chipper. And if you're not, don't worry. The DAMFAM will be here to help pick you up. Amour et bisous. And now I'm off to play some tennis. Wish me luck.